You can't turn your phone while recording. Oh, dude. Remember those technical difficulties?
That's all right.
So it won't let me do it in portrait mode. So this is gonna make it kind of
Do you
tight.
need us to get closer?
Yes, that would be better. Just bring the chairs in a little. Perfect.
Oh,
Is that good?
way.
Yeah. Now we're closer.
All right, you guys
Is that
are.
better?
You're good to go.
Are we live?
Live.
All right. Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. We're here with our mentor of the month, and I just want to say thanks for everybody for tuning in. And if you could, please mute your cell phones so that we don't have any interruptions. I'm Sergeant McVeigh, and I'm representing the Air Force Recruiting Service 5-6 and Top 3, and I'm here with our distinguished guest, Chief Master Sergeant McCool. And we're going to start off with some questions, and if anybody is tuning in live and they do have questions, please feel free to comment the questions, and if we have any time at the end, we'll get to some. So, without further ado, this is Chief Master Sergeant McCool from the 509th Air Base Wing, and if you have anything you'd like to say, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. It's always good to get to come back and be around recruiters. Just walking in the office today felt like I was coming home. So I'm excited to be here and share some time with you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. So the first topic we're going to start with is if you have any advice to a person coming into the DSD process that's being picked up for recruiting, what advice do you have to help them with their success?
Okay, that's a good question. I get to talk to airmen all the time about this process, about going into DSD, and having done 2 different special duties myself, it really is important for me to relay as much as I can about what is going to happen for their life. And I tell people that really you're going to survive it, right? You're going to go to recruiting school, they're going to give you all the tools you need to be successful, and you're going to be okay as long as you just do what the Air Force is asking of you. And whatever had made you successful in the past is going to make you successful again. But there's so much more than just surviving being a recruiter, and there's so much more that you can accomplish. And if you want to be successful, that's going to require you to work a little bit harder, right? You're going to have to really dig in and take the tools that you've been given and take it to the next level to be successful. But I think there's something even more important than being successful, and that's significance. And that's, you're going to change somebody's life. And that you may not see that immediately, but long term when someone says, man, I am who I am today because you gave me a chance at a life that's different than I ever had before. And so I think if we focus on what the long-term end goal is, instead of focusing on the immediate and the stress, because let's be honest, this job can be stressful, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It is stressful at times. I think all jobs can be stressful at times, but I think in recruiting specifically, we put that stress on ourselves. And we internalize a lot because we want to be successful. But if you focus on the long term, that you're actually filling the Air Force with people we need to be able to defend our nation. And if you can focus on that, you're going to give significance to someone else.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. If you have anything that you're doing outside of recruiting right now that you can relate back or you just want to share,
Absolutely.
please feel free to, because sometimes we get disconnected from, operational Air Force as recruiters, so we always enjoy the input.
Okay. Yeah, you know what, it's interesting that you said you miss the operational Air Force, because I've kind of gotten to the point now where I say you are the operational Air Force. Without you operating and doing what you do, nobody else can do what they do, right? So you're as much a part of the operational Air Force as I am, as my team is at the 509th. But I'll tell you, I've been at the 509th Bomb Wing now for about 9 months, and it is absolutely incredible what our airmen are doing. Just recently, we were doing something as part of the New START Treaty, and we were asking our airmen, do you realize that you are on the very cutting edge of national security? I mean, what you are executing today. And I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that we hire people to come into the Air Force and we immediately give them responsibilities with things that affect our national security. And so it's been eye-opening for me to be a part of a PRP mission, to be a part of the B2 mission. And we like to tell people that we're doing 2-a-days every day without a game. And that's a good thing that we're not in the game, because if the B2 is in the game, there's some real stuff happening, right? But we always have to be ready for whatever our nation could ask of us to do. And so where I think it really ties to recruiting, first of all, is that we need you to send us the best. We need you to think about, when you're recruiting, what does that actually mean to have that person in front of you, and that person is going to end up on my installation protecting nuclear weapons. I mean, that's the reality of it. So are we putting the right people in, and are we focused on the right things to make sure that we can be successful as an Air Force? But I'll also tell you, the skill sets that I got from being a recruiter serve me every single day. And something simple that I was just telling this story to the other recruiters. Somebody came to my office the other day, and I was really in a hurry, and I remembered from recruiting, I'm going to meet them at the door. I'm never going to let them get into my chair until I'm ready for them to come into the office. So it can be something simple like that, or it can be the organizational skills. I mean, I still carry a planner everywhere I go. It was electronic for a while, but now, because I'm in so many meetings where I can't have electronics, it's gone back to paper. But I think those skill sets that you get from being a recruiter, and then probably the most important skill set of any of them, is the ability to communicate. So on a daily basis, I sit down with airmen or with commanders, and I use probing techniques and questioning techniques to get to the need behind the need, so that I can really solve problems. And I think people are amazed by that skill set. And I tell them, man, that's recruiting. You go find a recruiter, they're going to be able to get to the heart of things that other people don't necessarily know how to.
Absolutely. You don't skip any steps in impact still?
Well, so I'm a PSS. I'm old school, so we had PSS, and I do skip steps sometimes because sometimes you're so anxious, there was a story one time. I had an applicant come to my office when I was a recruiter, and I just completely lost doing PSS, right? So he came in and he's like, I really want to join the Air Force and everything sounds good, but I can't do it because I can't move. I'm like, oh, you can't move, you can't be in the Air Force. Like, I'm sorry, we're not going to continue this conversation. This isn't for you. And I get up and he goes, yeah, I just wish I could afford to move, because then, I would be willing to move. And I'm like, oh. So it's not that you're not willing to move, you think you have to pay for your own moves. And he said, yeah. And I was like, if I'd have used PSS and said, now why is it that you don't want to move? I can't afford it. Well, guess what? We pay for you to move every time we send you somewhere else. So I think of that even to this day. Like, sometimes you just got to slow down and not take the first thing somebody says. You have to ask more questions to find out what is it that they really mean.
All right. Well, we have...
Ma'am, I got one for the specifically senior NCO side of things.
Yes.
Could you name or give an example, or maybe one of your biggest challenges from when you were a flight chief?
Let me think. That's a good question, because there were a lot of challenges that I had as a flight chief. I think there was difficulty at times with answering to what your supervisors want, and also being on the ground and knowing what your recruiters are trying to accomplish. And as a supervisor, and specifically as a flight chief, it's so much more than just the mentorship aspect of being a leader. It's the production aspect as well. And so if I could give my old self advice back then, I would say, take a deep breath and calm down. Because sometimes I was, like when we were talking about that stress, I was so wound up in the stress of wanting to make goal, wanting to be successful, and wanting my recruiters to be successful, that I pushed myself harder than I probably needed to at times. And if I had just taken a deep breath, I would have been, I wouldn't say I would have been more successful, because we were successful, but I probably wouldn't have had as high a blood pressure as I had at the time. And then it was interesting because Chief Chris McCool, hiding out in the background over there, we were flight chiefs at the same time. So, husband and wife in the same area doing flight chief duty at the same time, that was a huge challenge, but it was also a blessing, because we could lean on each other and have conversations about what it meant to struggle. But I had amazing recruiters. I was blessed with recruiters that really wanted to work hard, wanted to be successful. And when we got to, so I was a flight chief in inner city LA. And when we got there, our flights were, 189 of 189 in the nation and 187 of 189. So they had been struggling for a long time. And we came in and we said, we're going to be the SoCal recruiting team. And we're just going to embrace this and do the absolute best we can. And the team just conquered amazing things. And so I would say as a flight chief, just know that your impact is even greater than it was as a recruiter, because you're impacting not only the numbers for your squadron, but you're also impacting the lives of recruiters who will go on to impact the lives of airmen.
That's awesome. I think you may have touched on some of that, but I know a lot of us look at the busyness of this job, especially at all the different tiers you've worked, and even now in the command chief position you're in. What advice could you give to airmen of all sorts about how important work-life balance is, and maybe how to achieve that in the best way that still lets you meet the mission?
Awesome. For me, I've gotten to the point where I don't use the term balance anymore at all, because I don't think it exists. Because balance means that things are equal and that you're giving equal positioning to both things. And I don't think that's possible. So I've gotten to where I now say work-life harmony. There are times where my work life is the most important thing at the moment. If tomorrow or right now, if my cell phone rang and the boss said, hey, we've got a real world mission and I need you to get back, it might be all night long that I'm at work making sure that we're taking care of what we need to. And I would do that without hesitation, because that's what the nation is asking of me. And then there's times where either life hits you out of nowhere and you got to take a knee to take care of yourself, or you have a family situation, and in those times, you need to be able to say, work will be there. It was interesting because I had one of those moments recently where I had to take a step back for just a little bit, and I got a call from someone who matters to me in the Air Force. And this person said, you have a lot of money in the bank, so you are able to make withdrawals. And the more I thought about that, that's really what it is about, is if you're willing to put in the hard work when it needs to be, and people trust you and know that you are 100% dedicated to the mission, when you have to step back and take care of family things, when you have to say, hey, I've got to take care of me, people don't question it, because they know that you're going to give 100% to the mission whenever you can, as long as you can.
That's perfect. So I think the one final question, and I'll speak, you got to speak at our annual and something really stuck with a lot of us. We talked about it afterwards. But you had a line in there about how you don't get to pick the stage, but you get to pick the performance.
Yes.
And I think with today's recruiters, especially our new ones coming in through the DSD program, it really, to me, it stuck in my brain about how important that statement is. Could you grow a little bit more on that and talk about?
Absolutely. So I'm surrounded by people all the time, and it's not just airmen. It's not just people that are being DSD'd. It could be any person in the service. I hear them say something like, I'm worried about my next job. I'm worried about, will I get this? Will I get that? What will I achieve out of it? And I've realized that even in my own career, I've never gotten to pick the stage. There's been things I've wanted that didn't happen. There's things that I didn't want to have happen that did. And every time the Air Force has given me an opportunity, I've always said yes. And then when I get there, I am responsible for the performance. And how I perform is going to determine what the next stage is. And if you're so worried about the next stage that you're not able to perform on the stage you're on, nobody's going to trust you to do anything different. And so for me, every time I get into a position where I'm learning something new in a new job, I say, what can I learn about this and what can I take away from it? For me now in my life, everything is about a learning lesson. I'm asking myself all the time, okay, what can I learn from this situation?
Well, that does it for the questions. We appreciate your time very
Awesome.
much. Thank you for the audience for participating. If you didn't get a chance to watch this live, please feel free to watch it afterwards.
All right, thank you.
I just set that to recording.
What's that?